started. If y'all stand, we'll do the invocation and our pledges and show you words of prayer. Yes, sir.
Father in heaven, thank you again for this time, this place, in this city council meeting. We pray that your presence would be with us here as we discuss the business of the city. Pray that your blessing would be upon each and every one of us and upon the city itself. Bless us, we beg of you, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. We pray that we would love you first with all of our heart, soul, strength, and mind, and that we would love our neighbor as ourselves. Pray that we would think of those that most in the city that aren't here, that we would still show them love, that we care enough about them to do what's right in your eyesight for them and for this city. We pray that each and every soul in this city, before we close our eyes and sleep tonight, that we would just have thankful hearts to you for what we've been given. So we ask it all and we thank you in the name of your dear Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Call the December 2024 meeting of the Milford City Council to order at 6 p.m. I declare all the notices legally posted according to the Open Meetings Act. We do have a quorum. All council members are present. Do we have anyone that wanted to address us in the open mic session?
Yes, we have three. The
Okay.
first one is Carlos Garza.
Okay, Mr. Garza,
You can just stand there.
you have 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Carlos Garza from 503 South Main, corner of 30877. Just calling on the section 7 on y'all's pamphlet on the discussion of the ATVs, UTVs used in town. I know that we passed an ordinance several years ago back on that, which to me was one of the best things around. It saved me a lot of time and money on my vehicle. Pretty good convenience to have. I've also spent a lot of money on my UTV. One of the biggest reasons why I remained in the city as a resident is because we do have that in our city. I do know of other cities that do have it, Ovilla for one, off the top of my head. We do already have an ordinance. Believe that we should enforce the rules that are out there now. I mean, I know we got underage drivers and so on. My daughter was one that has been busted for it. They did bring her home and she did not drive again until she had her driver's license. But I think we enforce what we got. Ask y'all not to take any action on that tonight. If y'all do decide you need to take action, I would say let's put it out to the citizens to vote and see how they feel about it. Just go from there with that. I know there's a lot of people that have moved to this city because of that ordinance. You know, just that little freedom of being able just to run to the store right quick, and do that kind of stuff. One of the other places that I have traveled to is Port Aransas, Galveston, Crystal Beach. They also have ordinances there, but they also have in place where you buy a sticker or a license plate through their city, and that covers you for a year. And along with that, you have to meet certain requirements. You know, like Port Aransas has, you have to have insurance. You have to have seatbelts. You have to wear a seatbelt. They don't allow ATVs, they allow UTVs. But you pay a yearly fee, and I would be 100% willing to do that myself for the city, just to be able to do that here. To keep that ordinance rolling the way it is right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who else we have?
Roddy Guthrie.
Mayor, council, if you will. My name's Rodney Guthrie. I live here at, well, next door to him on the 172-308. My wife and I built a house over here about 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago. I'm a lifelong Ellis County resident. Lived in Italy a majority of my life, and like I said, we were blessed to be able to find some property and move over here. We've loved it ever since we've been here. Me too, I'm speaking on the agenda item number 7. We know that there is an ordinance that does cover that, and that's another reason my wife and I actually built over here, because we do have that freedom. We did have that unit, and we were able to come over here and ride it. Like I said, to the store. It's just real convenient. I have to get my truck just to go to the store to go grab bread or whatever I'm gonna grab. I'd like to keep the ordinance, I would keep the council to keep the ordinance in place. You've got a very competent law enforcement agency here that if there are violations out here that they're seeing, they can handle that. Chief Edge was a great interim choice for you guys. I worked for him probably 10 years of my law enforcement career. So you've got a good chief, you've got good officers. If they see violations, they can let them enforce the ordinance that's in place. I too, my buggy is insured. It's registered through the state of Texas, and got a license plate on it. So we're doing everything that we can to try to abide by the ordinance and any state regulations that may be involved with that. I'm also in favor of Carlos here as far as amend your ordinance to put in some type of fee. Like you said, have a sticker that we have to buy every year. And if you don't have the sticker, it's real simple. That's good probable cause to stop the buggy and go, hey, you're not licensed here to drive. And you know, we can move on from there. So that's a real simple reason to do that. As you guys, I served on the Italy City Council for almost 20 years before I moved here. I actually had to resign from that seat to come over here and be a resident of your town. One thing I tried to do is try to make decisions on what's best for the entire community, and then not maybe make decisions on what I feel are my personal views of the situation. There are issues here in town. I see it just like y'all do. We've got underage drivers riding up and down the streets, and those things need to be dealt with on the law enforcement side of it. You don't throw away the whole bushel of apples just because you got a couple of bad ones. And you've got a lot of good apples here in town that are abiding by the ordinance and doing the things that they need to do. So let's deal with the bad apples and let the ones that do have time. My grandkids come to town from Waxahachie and Tyler and different places in town, and they enjoy riding. So I thank you for your time. No, we're good.
Thank you.
And then we have Nicholas Stevens.
Well, Nicholas Stevens, live on 212 North Main. I'm also talking on the 7 on the ATVs. You know, I do see the problem just like we all do. Underage, kids running wild. We know this, but at the same time, if they're not taught no better, then, you know, I say, you know, we implement the sticker, maybe even offer a safety course or something like that. That way, you know, and then if they get caught out there running wild, then do it accordingly. You know, instead of just taking it away from everybody just because of a bunch of wild kids. We all was wild kids at once. You know, I grew up around here, and this is what, you know, if you take that away from us, take it away from the kids, we're going to start seeing, you know, teen crimes, drug abuse, kids just locking themselves in their rooms. You know, let them have some freedom. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
That's it.
Is that it? Okay, well, thank all of you for your input and your comments, and we will be getting to that item here in just a little bit, but we need to go do a couple of things first. We got to do our consent agenda, and so we need to look at that. Is there any questions? a discussion about the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the November consent agenda.
I'll second this.
We have a motion and a second to approve the November consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Go to our departmental reports. We'll start with parks and streets, water and sanitation. Mr. Washington, what you got for us?
I'm not sure if y'all noticed a strong odor, like if you was going to Road Ranger, it was a very strong odor that was over there. So at the lift station, what the lift station was doing, the water was seeping out, but the waste was kind of just like, was hanging around inside the lift station. The pumps wasn't working, the grinder. So, I went over there and told those guys to open that, lift station up, and come to find out their pumps wasn't working. So they had 3 trucks pumped out and came out and pumped that lift station out. And I asked the residents around there, do everything smell better? And they were like 10 times better. So hopefully we won't have that problem no more. And then, with Bodor Street, the county's supposed to get with me for Bodor Street this week to see when we're gonna start on that. Cause I told them I would like to be here once they start on it. So, and besides that, it's about to get cold, cover your faucets. I'm starting to see a lot of, sewer problems right now. I'm not sure, is it just because the way the ground shifts, or how the ground shifts, just going to different people's houses, unclogging the lines and stuff like that, so.
Okay. That's all, thank you. Fire department, Chief Phoenix.
The month slowed down a little bit. We're not up in the 20s as far as calls this time. Had 17 calls for service for the fire department. Had 2 fires, 2 others. The majority we're running right now is EMS calls. And that's about all I got right now.
Okay, thank you. Municipal court.
On the court side, we had 79 citations brought in for the month. We closed out 118 citations. Average speed over posted limit is at 18.24. We have court next Tuesday, about 20 on our docket for pre-trials next week. But it's been going good.
Thank you. Police department?
Mayor and council, you got the activity report by the number there, and then you also have the breakdown for y'all to take a look at. Plus the comparison from the previous months. The only other thing that we really need to talk about is Officer Guerrero is in ghost phase. He started that today, which basically means I'm in the car with him, but he's not supposed to really ask me questions, and I'm not supposed to really do anything unless something goes south. It's basically his final exam to see if he's okay, and I've seen no problems with him, so he should be on his own in the car starting next week.
Okay, that gives us 3 officers, right?
3 plus
And
me,
you.
yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, well then, if that's all right, we'll go, to the next, or get into our agenda items. Is there any objection to doing the fire department first? We'll go to number 9 then, and say discuss and possible action to approve resolution 510-24 granting the consent of the city of Milford, Texas to the creation of Ellis County Emergency Services District number 12. Who wants to speak for that?
This is the consent.
Put you on the spot there. Everybody's
So I need to fill out another thing?
getting a little nervous in their seats here.
Go ahead.
I know, it's gonna be 40, I promise.
This is the consent that I kept telling you guys about, that we would come to you eventually and ask for the permission from the city to become an ESD, which would really help the fire department. And in the long run, it will also benefit and help the city. Like we found out at the Commissioners Court meeting just a couple of weeks ago when we were up there, there is, and we knew some of it, but there's so much help, so many grants, that if we are allowed to become an ESD, so much money we can get to benefit the fire department and the citizens of the community in the county. So this is a resolution basically saying the governing fathers of the city of Milford does agree and gives us consent to move forward on becoming an ESD.
Is there a membership fee or an annual fee?
No, the taxes, not only for the citizens of Milford, but also for the people in the county, in the district, could be raised up to 10 cents per hundred. But so far, I haven't seen the Commissioners Court set anything higher than about a 5 or 6 right now, just to get things rolling. So it would be a tax increase on property, but another way to look at it is it's not just the city and the citizens of Milford supplying and supporting a fire department that covers everything out in the county in our district. Because we run out there now and we get nothing from it. When we were doing the petitions, we actually had one lady tell us, why do I want to sign that when you guys come out here for free because you're obligated? You're consistent, that's the citizens of Milford paying for people's mentality like that to have fire and EMS protection.
Are you saying that there's more, grants available to an ESD than there is to a volunteer department?
Yes, yes.
I'll echo what you're saying. I grew up between Waxahachie and Ennis, and the custom at that time, which I don't want to say how long ago that was, but if they came out and put out a fire on your property, you gave them a donation.
Right.
And everybody felt obligated to do it, even though they weren't, there's no law, so they had to. That was just good faith, but, we don't always get that anymore from
No.
people, is what you're saying, and they don't care. They're gonna get it free as long as they can, and, I would give my, approval to this. You know, it's been something I've thought about for years, and it's not because I thought that the volunteers weren't doing it right. I had any problem with that. It's just that I think that it gives more secure funding, and I'm thinking of it as a public service. I want to keep it intact and improve it and promote it any way that we can. And even though this'll make it a little less of a connection to the city government, I think for the community is the best thing. And so I would endorse it 100%. And I appreciate everybody's work on getting this petition done and all that, because I know that's not easy to do. It takes time.
Right.
And you gotta explain it many, many times to people to get them to understand and get their consent as well.
And I did have one council member that took my offer up and came and looked at the fire department. You can ask his opinion on what he thinks about the building that we are currently in.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number, I did see it, and it's, yeah, I mean, we need to,
Don't
just,
lean on it.
I'm gonna make the motion to approve it, but I'd like to say this before we do. It's a sad state of affairs where you guys are working out of. and we need to do, and Swish is the same thing for you. And as much as we can do, we've gotta make some changes around here to start getting this stuff looking right and going in the right direction. And I think this is by far and away one of the best things that we can do, so.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
before that,
Go ahead.
comment, I too am, an advocate, a proponent of the Emergency Service District by virtue of my, signing the petition. So it's a good thing that for the fire department and ultimately as you foresee for our city. I do have one question just for my, clarification and better understanding. Section 6 of the petition for creation of emergency service district, it's page 2 of 3 of the document. It says that Lakeisha Smith and Chris Serrato,
Yes.
that they agree and obligate themselves to pay the cost for the formation of the district. Tell me more about that. What's that all about, and how is it that they are the two that are named here? How is
It
that-
was, you have to have at least one person
Okay,
to pay $150, which is the filing fee and all that,
Okay.
to go to the state or to go to the county. And they were notified and they were asked and like,
Okay.
sure, we'll give you the money, we'll give you the money, so. And the city or the fire department can't pay for it, it has to come from a citizen.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Get a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 510-24, granting the consent of the city of Milford, Texas to the creation of Ellis County Emergency Services District number 12.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving resolution number 510-24, a resolution granting consent of the city of Milford, Texas, to creation of Ellis County Emergency Services District number 12, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is passed and approved by the council.
Thank you, guys.
Is Maypearl done,
Thank you.
approved yet
I got people up there at the Maypro meeting right now.
tonight? And this petition that we're giving to the county judge and commissioners, do I need to sign that?
Not the petition, all you have to sign is the resolution.
Okay, cause it just said signatures to follow and it,
Right.
so I didn't know, but I'm gonna be around, probably most of the day tomorrow, so if it needs to be, I can sign it.
Yeah, everything's already been submitted to the county commissioners, court. They called us today, all we needed was like 50-some signatures. We had 125 verified signatures on the petition, all we needed was 54, so. Yeah, way more than enough.
You think we'll get on the agenda for later
Tomorrow,
this month?
Tomorrow's just to verify
Oh, okay.
they are setting the public hearing for, I think like the 21st of
this month,
January,
or January.
is when they will set the public hearing. And that's,
Okay. If we need, any of us need to attend.
I mean, it wouldn't
we'll
hurt,
Try to make it.
it wouldn't hurt, and I'll let you guys know exactly when it's gonna be.
And where would that public hearing be?
It would be in the old courthouse in downtown Waxahachie, the old
Okay.
historical courthouse.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to, number 5, discuss possible action to approve a budget for asset forfeiture fund.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Chapter 59.06, Section D, if I'm not mistaken, of the Code of Criminal Procedure says, if we, as a police department, are awarded seized funds and then they are forfeited and we actually get the funds, then we are allowed to spend that money on law enforcement things only, without any supplanting, without anything else. I was unaware that there was a good balance in there, and I was also unaware that we've never done a budget for that particular, or I've never done a budget for that particular asset. I didn't see one from the previous budget, but that mean it wasn't. So what I'm trying to do is just create a very plain, very short budget, very fiscally conservative. The revenue I'm looking at bringing in is $3,500. We have 3, maybe 4 cars that are ready to go to auction. When I say maybe 4, because we've been told we're gonna be getting another one, and I will probably wait to do the auction until I hear about that one, so we just do it all at one time. The reason it's so low, because we may get one vehicle gets that whole $3,500, but a couple of them been sitting out in the weather for years. So there's no telling what they're gonna bring. They're gonna have a record to haul them off. So there's no telling what we're gonna get with that. But the expense that I'm projecting is $1,500 for supplies and $2,000 for equipment. During this time, I have noticed some shortcomings in some of the equipment that the officers are using. Some of it's out of date, and we need to go ahead and get that updated, get some of that equipment updated. So we got 35 theoretically coming in, 35 going out. Currently in that, if you'll look in the packet about the actual report, that has to be sent to the state, to the Attorney General's office every year. That report was done, it was completed on time, and that account has over $28,000 in it. There was no money went into it this time, except interest gained on that money, and there were no expenses that went out of it for that fund. So the fiscal year, well, actually, it's fiscal year for the city is also the fiscal year that report is due. So that one was done, everything's square, and until I started doing that and getting with Kim, because there's checkbooks in there that go back to when Carlos was in charge of it. And it's like, okay, how much is really in this thing? So we finally got it all figured out. She was able to print off all the bank statements for me. So now we're backtracking that amount of money, and this is just a opportunity to say this is what the budget's gonna be so that I can spend it if I choose to.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the chief? Do we have a motion to approve this proposed budget?
I'll make a motion to approve, the, asset forfeiture fund budget as, described by, Officer Edge.
Do we have
I
a second?
second.
Okay. Any further discussion before we vote? If not, we'll proceed. All those in favor of approving the proposed budget for the asset forfeiture fund as set forth by Chief Edge, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget is approved. Number 6, discuss and possible action to approve an expenditure from the asset forfeiture fund.
Mayor and council, you said I could, now I'm going to. Actually, under the chapter 59, I don't need your approval, but there's no way I'm ever gonna spend city funds without telling city council that that's what's fixing to happen, and request your approval to do so. Right now, the only thing I'm looking at is we've got some office supplies. We've depleted our CDs, we've depleted our thumb drives, because everything has to go out with open records and everything else has to go out that way. So it's just operating supplies for the police department right now, instead of taking it out of the, regular general fund. This takes it out of here, and we'll let the drug dealers help us out.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an expenditure from the asset forfeiture fund.
I second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the expenditure from the asset forfeiture fund as described by Chief Edge, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The expenditure is approved. Number 7, discuss some possible action regarding ATVs riding in town. Ms. Lockhart?
Yes.
You put this on the agenda, so we'll let you explain to us what
Okay.
you have in mind.
Well, I live on 503 West Cross Main. That's right in the center of the area where we get a lot of the utility whatever you call them, the recreational vehicle, traffic. So I can vouch for the ladies who were here at previous meetings who were very upset because of all the traffic, the speed, and I would like to discuss what certain issues that concern me. First of all, they are driving way too fast. There's a 30 miles per hour speed limit in the city. And there are some that have these little carts that go fast, and they will push it to the limit. And it really concerns me, because one day I saw this cart go by, and there was a younger kid, I think he was probably about 10 or 11, but he was standing on the back of the cart, holding on to the bar, and was not seated on the inside. And I thought, even if that child fell off, he could be seriously injured. And I just don't think that that's very prudent behavior for these kids. They don't realize the responsibility that's involved with driving these vehicles. Another thing, there are several of them that are very loud, and they're very disturbing. And what really makes me upset is when I hear them at 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night going up and down the road, and that's way too late. These kids need to have a curfew to be home and off of those vehicles at that time of the night. I don't care how old they are. That's just too late. It's disturbing, and I just don't feel like it's appropriate for anybody who has to hear that. I'm in bed at that time, and I can hear them go up and down. So I feel like there should be a curfew of no later than 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. In my opinion, they shouldn't be on the street at that late hour. Also, my biggest concern is the city liability. If these kids get involved in an accident, or if they hurt somebody, or destroy somebody else's property, and that person who's the victim decides to sue, and if the kid's parents don't have liability insurance on that, then the city stands to be sued, because number one, we need to enforce that 30 miles an hour speed limit, because we don't want to be sued for being negligent in not enforcing that speed limit. So I feel like this is something that is really more serious than what's being considered. It's not just because we don't want the kids to have fun. There is more to it than that. It's a responsibility, and the kids don't seem to care that if one gets away with it, they all want to get away with it, and it doesn't matter if one parent enforces or puts their foot down. Once they're on those machines, there they go, and they are not responsible. They don't. I've heard many reports that they don't stop at these stop signs between over there going toward the school, and they are careless. They do not look both ways, and it's just out of control. I don't have a problem with these machines if they respect the people. Those roads are our roads, not just their roads. So they need to respect other people's property. They need to respect the roads as being part of the city. They don't own them, and they do not have the right of way. They need to move over to the side of the road. They ride right down the middle of the road, and they need to move to the side of the road when an oncoming car or a car comes from behind. And I've seen incidents where that just doesn't happen. The car has to stop to make way for the kid to get by on their recreational vehicle. So yes, I do believe that this is something that's gone way out of control, and something needs to be done. We need to enforce rules and restrictions, and if we need to amend our current ordinance to make it more binding, then I'm all for it.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, and I would have to say that I respectfully disagree with a lot of, not necessarily what you're saying, because I do believe that that does happen, and I definitely understand. I am a very big proponent of us being able to have our recreation vehicles out here. I am not from this area. It is one of the things that I love about this town. And it means so much of being able to have that freedom. But with that freedom, and this is where you and I will agree 100%, comes respect. And everybody that's sitting over there who's gotten up and talked about this also knows that that's what it's about. Now, we gotta figure out something that we can do to be able to make this, and I love what you guys are saying. So we can make some money for the city, we'll do a permit of some kind to be able to work with bringing money in for the city from what is happening and what's going on. We've gotta figure a way to be able to get to these kids, because the kids are acting like idiots. And we don't wanna ruin this for all of us, because I don't throw out a couple of bad apples, you know, I get it. We gotta figure out how if we have to start doing police patrols during these times on Cross Main, I know that it's Cross Main. They come from my property a lot of times, coming up the creek line, and I love having them. I'm fixing to open up a bar down there, and I'm hoping that we get ATVs down there all the time. Because I think that it's something that is the community. I think that it brings us together as an ability to be in the country and be able to do this stuff. But at the same token, we have to do it respectfully, and we have to start doing it a lot more legitimately, not just on a wild hair of we're just throwing the keys and somebody's going off and taking it. We have respect for what we're doing, and we do it with that honor, I guess. And so I don't know how that is. I don't know if we set up a group of citizens with the city to be able to promote how we're going to make this happen, but I think that it's something that is important for us to keep, because it is a freedom.
I agree with you, and I don't have a problem with adults using I understand. It's the kids that don't have I don't think they've been given any kind of instructions. I'm sure they don't know what the driving rules are, or you know.
They are enjoying their freedoms way too much.
Yeah.
They've been told what's right and what's wrong, but they are not necessarily abiding by it. So we have to figure out a way of how we're going to, and I would like to, I mean, to a certain point, I feel like we need to have strict enforcement of, it's not gonna be a slap on the wrist if you're 16 and you're driving 60 miles an hour going down the road or whatever it is and we catch you. I want it to be something where we know, like, we respect, and once you get out of town, you're on a back road, open it up and have a good time, you know? Like, I mean, just respect each other. Like, I mean, it should be a lot easier than this, but I think until we can get it under control, you're right, we've got to lay down the law, I guess.
Well, I am not necessarily a proponent nor an adversary of the use of all-terrain vehicles. But what I am an advocate for, a proponent of, is outlining rules and regulations and the enforcement thereof. We already have ordinances on file regarding the use of golf carts and ATVs. And it says in the ordinance that the person using the ATVs or the golf carts for that matter, that they have to be at least 16 years of age and possess a valid driver's license. That's already in the ordinance. And it goes on to say that the the ATV shall not be operated on a street during 1/2 hour after sunset to 1/2 hour before sunrise. So therein lies that problem. You're saying that 10 o'clock at night, your sleep or your peace is disturbed because of the use of them, but according to the ordinance, they should not be out.
That's right.
At that time. And so I just believe that if we could just look at what we have, I think somebody or one of our citizens, a couple of them already forestated, if we look at what we already have on the books and enforce that, and then maybe revise it a little bit to include an annual sticker fee of some sort, because I heard from another community member who could not be here tonight, and her concerns were similar to those expressed by the gentleman here in the audience, and one of the possible solutions was to impose an annual sticker fee. That way we will be able to keep record of who is actually using them and then bring in revenue. But be that as it may, I think that we've got to be about the business as a city of being people of integrity.
Right.
That means what we say we're going to do, that we actually do, because we say a lot.
It could.
And we have it, and the record shows that we say a lot, but where is the enforcement? And until we start enforcing some of these rules and regulations, the behaviors that we are hoping to change, we will never change them because people will never take us seriously. We can't become a city where anything and everything goes.
Well, one of my biggest concerns is somebody's gonna get hurt, and somebody's gonna get hurt seriously. I would like to see us put in force something that will keep that from happening, because it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. It's gonna happen, it's, especially if we don't, put some regulations in place.
And we already have regulations in place for violations. What happens if they violate the ordinance? I haven't really studied it that closely, but I know that it exists in the ordinance. It's just a matter of us wrapping our brains around it and actually enforcing what we have. Because we may discover that we have enough already to rectify this problem without taking the freedom and the liberties away from the people, because again.
I don't wanna take it away, but.
Right, and you were saying that it's not the adults that you're concerned about, it's the young people. But look, the ordinance already addresses that you have to be at least 16 years of age and have a valid license.
Yes, but, well, and I think that the whole reason behind that is because they've gone through some driver's training or driver's education, so they know the rules of the road by that time. These young kids don't have a clue.
Okay, I live on 340 Old Brandon Road. I'm not dissing the RVs, but they do come in from moon, whatever they call it, blue hole, whatever. I mean, it's too late. And for the kids, they fly down there. 18-wheelers, I mean, is on that road because that lumber company's out there. They don't look, they don't have on helmets, they don't have nothing. They just going in the line all the way around that curve. So that makes the 18-wheeler have to hit his brakes. And I can hear it out. And then when they come out from after, it's 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And you got a line up. So I'm not saying don't do it, but respect the people that you gotta come through the neighborhood.
2 or 3 in the morning.
Do it responsibly and lawfully, that's all. Lawfully.
That's all I'm
And that's what.
Cause you got a lot of elderly people that's complaining, well, they too loud. You
That's
know,
right.
they disturb me. I'm like, okay, it's just one of me, okay. I say, long as you ask them, do it respectfully, and just, you know, you can have a good time if you want to, as long as you do it respectfully.
Right.
When you come through, if you got music, cut it down.
That's right.
That's right, you're
And
in
if
city
it's too
limits.
loud, fix it.
Right.
I mean, other than that, you're fine. I don't care about you coming through there, but I do understand what she's saying about the kids. They fly through there, I mean, they letting loose. They're not looking, they not stopping at the stop sign, they not seeing if a car coming off a corner or Shabazz Street, they just flying.
Well, what we might do is follow this suggestion about, having a license. And when people get that license, let's have
Copy.
a sheet of, that reminds them of all the ordinances, make them sign off on that, and, so they become a little more aware of what the rules of the road are and our ordinances. I think that'd be a good opportunity to educate folks as to this, because everybody it's just gonna be an ongoing thing forever. I mean, it's just like anything else. I mean, every once in a while, you just have to remind people that there's, there's rules and restrictions, and then enforce it.
But it's gonna be tough for the police department to be just out looking for that.
Well,
It is, but as we educate people, I think
Yes,
the
I
word gets
agree,
out that
as far as
then it'll become
educating.
self-regulating to some degree, and notify parents as well.
Yeah.
Just not, we don't have to accuse anybody, but just, say that, remind people that we
Please be
got
reminded, right?
Yeah.
some regulations
Yeah,
here, and we
yes,
need to be
be
safe
reminded.
and respectful.
Mhm.
Shane, you had something to
It's
say?
just a suggestion that, those who advocate that, driving those things on the streets, maybe you guys be the tip of the spear to educate
Yes.
people,
Yeah.
especially the children. Because it is a
Yeah.
problem with our children driving these, not mine personally, but people let their children out there. Maybe just get the word out and say, we're
Yes.
having problems and we need to educate the citizens of the city on how we can fix it. So those, you guys who wanna keep the ordinance, I'm with you, I agree, but you guys be the tip
Yeah.
of the spear.
Yeah.
Get the word on the street that this has to stop and change.
I can say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Counter the noise and everything. I live on 308, 77 there. So you talk about noise.
I know.
Trust me. And it ain't cars. It's these cars that go down here with music moving at 2 or 3 in the morning, that it's the same difference.
Yeah.
We've got trucks that cut their pipes off and put these big old giant pipes on there, when they turn on 308 at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever time it may be, we hear the same noise. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with that, because trust me, there's times we're in there in bed, and that 18-wheeler comes into town running the Jake brake, gets me right out of bed, and I'm like, what the heck was that? And realize that it was that 18-wheeler that just came and blew into town, running the Jake brake. But on the same time, I mean, I can't run out there and police everybody. And you're right, the chief can't, all of his officers can't be out there on every road patrolling everything, and it does start at home. And like I mentioned earlier, my daughter did get caught once, and she never drove again until she was of age and has a driver's license.
That's good.
But as far as noise goes and all that, I mean, that just comes from everything that we got around here. Just the vehicles that are up and down these streets these days. You talk about vehicles going, there's a fuel station out there now, so that increases your traffic going up and down that road. And I promise you, it ain't only ATV going up and down that road, it's vehicles going up and down that road, running, 30 miles an hour. Even 30 miles an hour on that road is pretty quick.
Yeah.
But with that being said, about speed, on an ATV, when you're going, you may only be doing 20, but it really does look like you're doing faster than that, or even may sound like you're doing faster than that, and you're really not. Like a motorcycle or crotch rocket, they can zoom into town, I'm like, damn, that dude's hauling butt. And they get down there by my house, and it's just loud, but he really ain't hauling butt, So, it seems like, but anyway, I would be willing to stand up and be an advocate, along with these guys, I'm sure they would, and, make things different. I mean, this kinda shook us a little bit, and trust me, we've already had conversations in the background that, some of these youngers and even some of the olders, it's not only our young kids, we keep putting it off on them, but it's not always on them.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say as well. I've heard that it's not necessarily just the kids, and I know that it's
And
not.
some of it is also outsiders that come into town.
Yes.
Correct. I mean, we've got issues from all different layers of this onion. So, but her point still remains the same, is that the etiquette isn't being followed, and it needs to be followed. And if it isn't followed, if we come back and we have this issue again, we're gonna have to start making some changes, and that's gonna suck for all of us, I think, personally.
And let's just assume, I am of the mindset that, generally speaking, when people know better, they do better.
Yes.
And I would just like to assume that a plurality of our ATV users, whether they are juvenile or full-grown adults, are probably not fully aware of the laws and the ordinances that govern the use of them, especially the time frame, the window of time during which they should use them. The fact that you have to be at least 16 and have a valid driver's license. Your use of them cannot pose a disruption to regular traffic or a nuisance to others. They're probably not aware of all of that. And so I just believe that if we could hold a public forum, perhaps, would that being the item that we discuss, we share that information with them, I think that might help. And then, we can probably more fully hold them accountable for their actions, because they won't be able to say they don't know. First of all, there is a law that says the ignorance of the law is no excuse. So even if they don't know what the law says, what the ordinances are, they are still responsible for abiding by them and for the consequences of failure to do so. So I think that if we could hold a public forum to lay this out to them, we're gonna get some people, just by virtue of being better informed, they will change their behaviors in terms of how they use the ATVs and the golf carts.
We'll have to rely on parents to put their foot down.
Well, that too, they'll be in the forum, they'll know about the consequences.
Carlos already volunteered.
They'll know the consequences, right? And so basically in this, and I would hate to put our citizens in the position to have to be the frontline police for this. To go and say, hey, listen, you shouldn't be doing this, that, or the other, because if you approach them that way, what you get is what you get, because they're gonna say, who are you?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that if we could organize a public forum where the leaders of the city are speaking to the issue, the chief of police is talking about the consequences for violating that, or whoever is going to speak from this side of the table, I think that will be more effective and that will carry more weight. Certainly with our citizens, if you want to stand in the forum and give voice to it, but taking the lead on it, I don't think that we should put you all in that position to do that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing, go ahead, Chief, sorry.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I don't know what your time frame is to do this. I'm tickled to death that we're finally talking about this. I think I brought it up in the very first meeting I was here and said, personally, as the public safety official, I think they need to go away. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But I don't make the rules like that. I take everything into account. I don't try to put my personal beliefs on somebody else.
Got it?
But I don't know what your time frame is, but the first thing you need to do is fix your ordinance.
Right.
Okay, the state of Texas says a lot of this stuff is in there. Your ordinance doesn't say between 6:30 and 6:30. It says unless you have the equipment. If you've got lights, you can run that thing at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what your ordinance says. That's also what the state law says. So you have to get everything in congruence. You're talking about golf carts. State law talks about within X number of miles of a golf course. Sorry, we don't have one. So we need to clean the ordinance up to make it enforceable to begin with. Okay, it's not golf carts anymore per se. It's neighborhood electric vehicles, or whatever the terminology is they use for it. But if we're gonna stay with the state, which the state, and the latest Attorney General's opinion about this, the state did not give away any of its authority. It said the cities can't come in and do something the state said you can't. All they said was, this is what we're gonna do, cities, you can do it up to what we said. And you're right, only certain speeds, only this, only that. And it also doesn't talk about ATVs. If you think about ATV, how many of you think about a four-wheeler? Got the handlebars. That's an ATV. What everybody's talking about are SUVs. UTVs, okay? You don't even mention UTVs in the
No, we
ordinance.
don't have UTVs, it mentions ATVs,
Right,
and it
and the
doesn't
state
talk.
of Texas says you ain't putting a four-wheeler on 77.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
And it doesn't talk, it doesn't give like.
It says in a 35-mile-an-hour zone.
Yes.
In our current ordinance, it doesn't give specific times like 6:30 a.m., 6:30 p.m., but it does say 1 hour after sunset, 1/2 hour before sunrise. So there is some reference to
Right.
timeframes, windows of time, but it doesn't mention. Go ahead.
After sunset to 1/2 hour before sunrise,
Mhm.
unless in compliance with Texas Transportation Code regarding vehicle lighting and other equipment.
Yeah, that's it.
Does that include?
So as long as it's,
seatbelts?
Right, as long as it's.
Yes.
as long as you've got the equipment, then you can go after that. Otherwise, it's sunrise and sunset.
I don't even know if these locally have seatbelts. Ours do.
Oh, they
Yes,
do,
they do.
they do.
Okay.
UTVs,
I mean,
do, your ATVs. don't.
Yeah, ATVs, if you think of a saddle and a four-wheeler,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the hardest one to get legal on the streets.
yeah.
But the UTVs, if you took away my mule from my ranch, I'd be dead in the water. They are so great for everything in the world. You know, I go see my son, I get on the mule, otherwise I gotta drive a truck.
And we have nothing in our ordinance.
So-
And I don't have a
Just
problem with
ATVs.
that.
No,
That's
I'm just saying, I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're finally addressing it, and as long as we're addressing it, I got some more too. Chickens running all over the place. Okay? You got horses on lots that ain't big enough by city ordinance, and we're gonna enforce them, and we need to enforce them all.
Okay, there's a
Well,
lot of
I'm okay with
livestock
that.
that needs to be
Yep.
addressed in the
Okay,
city limits.
and we don't wanna confuse farm vehicles with recreation.
Right.
You
Correct.
said your mule,
My mule doesn't get on the highway.
well,
I got a big enough piece of property that stays on
I've
it.
been on a mule plenty times up and down 77 here doing
I know.
farm work, tractors, construction equipment, so that,
There are regulations exempting certain ones of those.
right.
You can leave your property to get onto the highway as long as you're going through another gate of your property. There's all kind of rules and regulations about it. And I'm just saying, before we really jump out, and I'm in agreement, I like the idea of everybody coming together. But we gotta clean the ordinance up so we're talking the same sheet of music.
Well, it hasn't been, but about three or 4 weeks ago, I was outside in the front yard working, and along comes it was a go-kart, and it was a man in a go-kart, and he was flying down
It's not just the
across
kids.
Main. He went down, he probably went to Road Ranger, and then when he came back, he was going if he'd had a blowout, he'd have been flipping that thing all over the place. Shit.
I see him all the time.
Go ahead,
Ryan.
I see that guy.
The city ordinance also says that you can only ride it on city streets and not 77 and
Right,
the county. You can cross them, but you cannot ride up and down them.
right.
Maybe we need to do some study on this and see how we wanna revise the
Yeah.
ordinance. Certainly welcome
I'm gonna go for a
input
ride
from
while y'all
everybody.
study on it.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing that I would say from the city standpoint would be to just, like you said, that was the best thing that was said, is just to try to make it something where we go out just between us and just say, hey, listen, man, take it easy and just.
That's gonna start tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's all we're hoping for. So let's go.
Thank y'all for listening.
Well,
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all for giving us the floor again.
Yeah, I think like to believe we're enough of a community that we can work together and kind of regulate ourselves informally from time to time without having to have too much government. I mean, I know that's why a lot of us live in a town like this, because we don't have all the rules that they have in some
For
places.
too long, we won't have this freedom.
Exactly.
Everything's growing together.
But we do have a lot more traffic and a lot more noise to deal with, and it's just a little faster paced town than it was a few years ago, so we're gonna have to do our best to keep the good features in the community that we have.
Thank you.
We're hurrying.
Thank you for participating in this.
All right, Carlo.
Appreciate having you here to discuss these things with us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. See?
I know.
But,
Somebody needs to address that problem, not you.
All right. Get out here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank y'all, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let's take up number 8, discussion and possible action immediately and consistently enforce Milford Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Health and sanitation, Article 6.100, property maintenance and requirements. Ms. Byrd?
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor Perryman, fellow council members, and Milford citizens for allowing me to address a topic of concern to me, a topic that I addressed before becoming a city council member, a topic upon which I ran as a city council candidate, a topic that the citizens of Milford deemed of interest to them, as reflected in a citizen input survey that I conducted as a part of my city council election campaign. The issue of which I speak is private property maintenance. Milford has an ordinance in place to address property maintenance, yet this issue is becoming increasingly problematic. Various and multiple areas of our city are becoming virtual dumping grounds for farm equipment, furniture and appliances, all of which are highly visible from the streets. Yards are left unattended and regular maintenance is disregarded. Communities that allow their properties to devalue due to poor maintenance see their individual home values drop precipitously and community growth devalued. Whether I'm driving the various streets of our city or standing on my porch catching glimpses of properties within my purview, I am embarrassed and disheartened by much of what I see. The mattresses, the living room sofas and chairs, the front seats of cars, the washers and dryers, the dressers, the chest of drawers, the tractors and other farm equipment, none of which are in backyards, are hidden by privacy fences. Indeed, all of which are on public display as if it's something in which to take pride. It is not. Instead, it makes us appear as a city that has given up on itself. The curb appeal of our city is in many cases contrary to our aim of making Milford a source of pride, a better place in which to live, to work, and to play. A city that will attract families and businesses and the revenue associated therewith. It is my hope, indeed my expectation as a tax-paying citizen, that the city of Milford take this matter to heart by immediately and consistently enforcing Milford Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Health and Sanitation, Article 6.100, Property Maintenance and Requirements. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, I like that.
As what I've learned before I'm trying to work on this is our ordinances and codes are not up to snuff yet. And it's gotta be evenly spread around the whole city as far as cleaning up. We can't dictate certain spots.
Well, there's some things that are pretty elementary, like keep your yard mowed and not have grass, knee high.
Well, I get where you're coming from, but
I know.
it's gotta be evenly spread.
Absolutely.
And where do we start though? Where do we start and when do we start?
Yeah, I understand.
I think what we need is somebody to just survey the city. There's a lot of these violations, like you say, you can just see it, they're out in the front yard, just walking by. I'm not gonna mention any properties right now, but you know, they got furniture out in front, and you said mattresses, things of that nature.
Car seats?
I don't know. Swish, do you think it's something that you could do? I mean, you can get out and see the town about as much as anybody. We could get Mr. Markham, but when we, you know, I think it'd be better if we turned it into him to say who's.
It's like the same way you deal with the roads.
Can I say something?
You don't have to be the one to, you know.
I mean, that puts you in such a
But what do you think? I mean, we gotta have somebody that comes down and
but
says, this is
Swish
it.
is the guy who has to go around and say, this property is supposed to, you know, and like, how do we determine our, go ahead. I'll entertain something.
I have, real quick, I have
When a
something.
person
go ahead.
goes,
I talked to Buddy about it today, and he does not want to really do code enforcement. He said he would help with dilapidated buildings
Right.
and structures. He can come in and start the process for those, but code enforcement is not something that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty expensive to get him involved in it anyway, but we gotta figure out a mechanism to, you know, to identify and then notify. That's basically what it is, and then decide how we wanna follow up. Go ahead, Ms. Cross.
since September of 2022, I have filed every 3 months a complaint about grass not being mowed behind my house, and there's acres.
Right.
And so every 3 months since September of 2023, the last one I filed, 22, the last one I did was March of 2024. Whenever we set the new council in May, I was supposed to do another one and I didn't. But
There's been
What?
some notices that's gone out. The question is that there's just not compliance, so we got, to me, 2 options. We could either go mow it,
Right, it's
That's
like,
it.
how
or
are
we
we gonna
can,
do it, or we
or
gonna
we can
enforce the lien?
file,
Lien.
charges in the,
Right.
in the municipal court.
Can we take the lien,
Uh,
put a lien
I
on
think
it?
so. If we mow it, we just put a lien on it.
But ain't the liens?
that's what the ordinance
hard
says
to
do.
go
That's what it
get?
does. It's
Not
already there.
necessarily.
No, the lien's easy. You just can't, you can't collect on it until
We may not collect on
property
it for
sells.
20 years.
Yeah, that, and there was, last I heard that property, there was so much stuff back there, like, it would be risky to take any sort of tractor back there as tall as it was and try to
Yes.
mow it. Because there's stuff, you don't know what's where.
Right, there's pipes, there's electrical, there's all kinds of stuff in that property, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, something's gotta be done though, because I mean, she's right.
Yeah.
And
They're just totally
everybody who
ignoring
does
the-
have, I mean, and her whole point is really founded on, like, we have to start enforcing this stuff.
I mean-
We have to figure out a way that we're going to start holding it accountable and making the place live better.
That's right.
And whether it's a hard thing to do or not, we gotta figure out some way of being able to go about it. Because we got places like behind her that looks like crap, and it has looked like crap for a long time. And but it doesn't necessarily have to be Swiss that has to go and point.
Well, you're
Well, I'm
doing-
just asking, what do you think?
You're the one who sees it though.
I mean, you don't have to be the enforcer, but, I mean, if you see stuff, just drop us a note or something and, you know.
When you say like dealing with, when you
What
say.
if we tried to accumulate the entire town first before we did anything? And just say, this is the overall of everything that we find that might be egregious.
But people that been here for a long time, that's the way they
Well, when you say dealing with
That's their
mattresses and
mindset.
couches and stuff like
Yes,
that,
sir.
what needs to be done is, instead of 1 cleanup day, you need 2. I mean, you need 2 cleanup
Right.
days,
Talked about it.
2 times a year. Cause like, you know what I'm saying, you got some people
I
that
even filed one
doesn't
with
have
you.
a husband
Right after
at
we
the
moved
house,
here,
don't
I
have
filed
nobody
one
at
with
the house
you.
to help them. Or,
And that was in
You know,
2020.
Well, I mean, how many of these places are there? I mean, I'll go help myself to help.
It's unreal.
It's
Listen.
everywhere.
I have a
It's
neighbor,
everywhere.
All right, let's, yeah, go ahead.
I have a neighbor, and I was mowing their yard. When I mowed my front yard, I just kept on going and I'd mow their yard. And he came out one day and he says, "Why are you mowing my yard?" And I said, "Well, it's just, I like to mow, but also I mowing mine, mine looks good, yours looks good, makes both of our houses look good." He says, "Well, don't do that. I will pay to have it mowed." And he's not had it mowed, and it looks terrible.
If I can,
Sure.
Sure. Make sure which one this is. Okay, I don't have to talk that one. We ride around all day. We can get you the list and the pictures of anything you want to. You don't have to put that on Switch. We're out there rolling slow and looking around anyway. We can get you the list of what you want. The question is, who's gonna do the enforcement?
That's right.
Because y'all had always asked that you want the police department to get a better relationship. Well, if we're out there handing
Yeah.
tickets for ordinances, we are not gonna be the best friend out there.
We don't want you.
Another thing, so many of these properties do not belong to the people that are living there. They belong to somebody who's out of city, out of state, whatever, and you can start going. excuse me, you can go after the owner in some nuisance abatement laws and not just the person living there. Make the owner put some pressure on the tenants to get that stuff cleaned up. Two, if you did this widespread and it was successful after about a year or so, your property taxes are gonna go up. Because the property's gonna go up, you don't have to raise the thing. But when the CAD comes in here and they start looking at, she's right, there's washers, dryers, grandma's old car that hadn't run in 20 years, but I can't get rid of it because it was grandma's old car.
That's right.
And they're lining, there's no telling what's living in them.
Yeah.
It's all over the city.
Can we start
Rattlesnakes
setting
like
up like
that,
some kind
like
of
tall
notices
grass,
with like
too.
the water bills or something to that effect?
You mean to everybody or
Well,
just to
just-
those that?
No, the beef fire just send them out to everybody that has a water.
Maybe you
meter.
just send it out to everybody and then they get it, they think that it was targeted to them, who cares?
Yeah, I mean.
But we was talking
It
about
just
that
says-
earlier today, if you send it to the water bill, if I'm renting her house and I don't pay the water bill, then she gets it, but I'm the one trashing the place up. She's gonna get your message because it's going to the address of the water bill.
Well, okay,
And that's been done for years, where it's been notices and ordinances that have been put on the water bills and printed on the water bills, so try to clean it up. You know, and
with any success.
no, and let me explain why, and then the mayor can back me on this, because he's been on the council, he's had the seat for a long time. In the past, when there was somebody here enforcing, all he did was enforce ordinances, he didn't get the backing of the council. All somebody would have to do is come to the city council meeting and say, I need 30 more days. Granted, don't write him no ticket. You're not enforcing anything. You're not, you've got to, whoever you put in that position to enforce it, you as the governing body needs to support that person. If you don't support that person, you're not gonna get nothing done. You can't give them extensions, you can't, I mean, now, if it's a dire need extension, I understand that. Somebody's down on their luck, doesn't have the money, waiting on some money, or waiting on somebody to come and do it, I understand that. But somebody repeatedly keeps coming in and keeps coming in. There's a property in town that I know of now that 5 years, while I was still chief of police, to this day has still not cleaned up their property. Because the council just kept giving them extensions,
There's been
extensions,
no
extensions.
enforcement, that's right.
Exactly,
No
so there was,
enforcement.
the person that was
Council's gone.
supposed to be doing that
That council was gone.
could not enforce because the council would not back it.
This is a different city council.
And
Amen.
that's why I'm
Amen.
saying,
That's right.
you've got to stand behind whoever you put in there.
Well,
I would like to see a spring clean, like, one in April and another one in October. That way, those people, like, it's a lot of people that's not gonna pay someone to come take their couches and everything all the way to Itasca for $40, $50 or something like that. But the city could help them get that because they single parents. A lot of them are single parents. Like some of the women that I know that have those couches and mattresses that's laying in front of their yard, they don't have no one to come get that without paying $40, $50. I mean, then like you have somebody like me go over there and get it, where I'm gonna take it to?
Right.
Now I'm making my yard look.
But you know what, and it's not that I lack empathy for those who are challenged or otherwise down on their luck. But what I do know is that we all have a story. We all have a story. And our story may explain why things are as they are, but it doesn't excuse us from doing what is right and what is lawful. So I think at some point in time, we've got to stop making excuses for ourselves. Let me try and say, listen, I cannot pay my water bill. I cannot pay my water bill because I have an increase in other expenditures, or I have lost my job. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Bird, for that. However, you must pay your bill by this timeline or endure the consequences. That's just life, and that's just a part of
home ownership, because again, the ordinances don't speak to renters, it speaks to owners. So it's the owners of the property, you know, that's held accountable, whether that owner lives in California or whether that owner lives at 404 South Elm. It is their responsibility as a homeowner to maintain their property. Find a way. We've got to find a way, because again, if we I don't lack empathy, and I understand hard times, and I understand struggle, and I will do what I can to help people that are struggling. But at some point in time, we've got to hold even those that are struggling to a certain level of accountability, because I promise you, if people know that they are going to be held accountable for their actions, they are more inclined to figure out a way to change their actions. If you want to change behavior, I don't care if it's juvenile behavior or adult behavior, the best way to do it and the fastest way to do it is to impose consequences. Because again, nobody cares if you say, did not tell you not to put your hand in a cookie jar. I'm not gonna tell you anymore not to put your hand in the cookie jar. They don't care if you exhaust yourself by repeating yourself. But it's only when you hold them accountable for having all of those crumbs on their forearm that they're gonna stop, or they're gonna think twice before putting their hands back in the cookie jar. And that's where I am with the whole matter.
Well, I think the ideas are good. We can have another cleaning in the fall. And we can have the police give us a list of the violators with pictures. The next question is how are we gonna notify people, and what are the consequences gonna be? That's what we've gotta figure out. I mean, we have a municipal court where we could make use of that. We've talked about it before, and it's not it's the same basically as it's a Class C violation, where we could just have them come in and talk to the judge. Or we can handle it in some other way. We just don't have anybody whose job it is that we've designated to say, this is, you're our enforcement person. So that's what we gotta figure out if we wanna do it. There needs to be something though between
So we need
a court and us collecting the information as to, where the violations are. I don't wanna just send them right to court. I don't think that would be the best way to do it, but.
So we need to select somebody to be an enforcer now?
I think so. We gotta figure out how
Prosecute
we're
under
gonna do it.
provisions, okay. Perform the work, we talked about that, or make the improvements as necessary to correct the problem. That's if they don't, and that's what we, the city, will do. The performance of such work by the city hall shall not relieve the person from prosecution by failure to comply. And it just goes on to say, I mean, it's already in the ordinance, and we may wanna look at the ordinance and tighten it up a little bit, but we already have some steps in place that we're supposed to take.
Legally,
Yeah.
code enforcement is, you gotta have your I's and T's correctly.
course.
Otherwise the judge will throw it out. He won't waste 2 seconds.
But normally, we have noticed, if you get to the point of them getting a ticket, they're usually gonna do something to take care of it, because the judge is most likely, I can't say that he's going to, but if you fix the problem, then a lot of times he'll just miss the ticket. It's a fix-it type of ticket.
Right.
So if we can get to the point of maybe writing the citations, but who's gonna write them?
Yeah, give them 10 days to get the
Chief,
yard
you
mowed.
do not write that ticket. It's just a code enforcement ticket that gets written.
We can
They
write
can.
that.
We can.
The police department, it is a violation of city ordinances, and we're taking oath to uphold the ordinances of the city, but typically, you don't put your code enforcement in your police department. That's just typical.
Markham doesn't wanna do it.
He didn't really act like he wanted to.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. We gotta somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it was that deal with Italy, you know, we were gonna share
Oh, yeah.
code enforcement, but we don't have to do that, we can hire them ourselves. But that's $60,000-$70,000.
Well,
And
we need to
with the
at least-
city,
I think we can get it
done cheaper than that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can definitely get it.
Is there,
I was trying to get it.
Well-
Carlos is
Carlos,
Yeah, he doesn't have enough to do already.
I know.
Well,
I wonder if there's any companies that, like our inspector,
Well,
is
what about
there like a
Bureau?
third party?
What about Bureau Veritas?
I don't know if they do code enforcement.
they only do buildings.
I assume so. I mean, they had just gotten so big.
well, it's a matter of, you know, the police department collects information, then they turn it over to whoever's party's gonna be, and then they send out the notices. And I assume it'd be a letter and say, you've got X days to correct, or we're going to, you know, we will file, charges with the municipal court. And I would suggest we do it,
That way.
impose a quick deadline for them to contact this person and say, we gotta have a plan in place in so many days, and then in so many days, it's gotta be carried out. And then if it's not, then, you know, turn it over to the court.
So do we have to
But
get with the attorneys to be able to figure out how many days we have to allow, or?
No, I think we can do that, it's just a matter of writing up an ordinance and then, you know, enacting it. But it kinda comes back to who's gonna do this, you know? And I don't know, I'm not sure if there's, companies that do it or not. I would assume that there are.
Oh, what are they, third party?
Right. But
Yeah.
You gotta pay them, you know,
Yeah.
Do
but,
they get paid as a portion of whatever the fee is?
I don't know.
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know
It
how
was just
that
a
works.
question I threw out there.
I would assume,
Or is-
what I would prefer is we get someone that's just, you know, that does it, by the case.
I won't do it because I'll be in jail.
that's kinda like,
I'll put money on your books, you'll be all right.
Well, let's put some thought in that, see if we can, and we'll do some research and see, cause we gotta have somebody that does, we authorize to do it. And there's good reasons for not having the folks that we deal with now. But I think, I think if we put, you know, if they can put a little pressure on people that, you know, that'll work. There's gonna be a few that's gonna have to go to court, and I know Judge Miller is, more than likely, he's gonna say, look, I'm gonna give you till I come back next month, and it better be done. And, hopefully it will, or he'll give them a fine. I'm
what
sure.
about, what do you do with repeat offenders who don't do it until they get?
Well, it'd just be up to the judge, unless we wanna find a different way to deal with them.
Can we increase our fine amount or something to that effect?
You have to do an ordinance.
Is that what you?
You have to order it. No,
But-
we can't control the fine on it.
I don't wanna put my name to it, but I can just do it under the city of Milford for now. If we get a list of them, I can at least send out letters for what our ordinances are that says you're in violation of this.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't go around, riding around looking for
Wouldn't
what
have
people
to,
are in
right?
violation of. So,
But who do you want them to talk to about it? I mean, cause once you send the letter, they're gonna call or come down there.
this is true.
So I'd rather have,
No,
somebody else, we gotta figure that out before we open it,
Can of worms.
that thing up. Cause I don't want you to be taking on any more abuse than you already have in your job.
yeah, I'll send them to chief. Like, I don't know if he gave me the picture of it.
But like we were saying too, there's a lot of property here that the people don't live here anymore. We know one right off.
Did y'all have any luck in finding that information out?
Which one?
You said you guys had worked in trying to do stuff that had not worked in the past. Trying to find the owners of the properties that were out of town.
Well-
Have we had any luck in trying to figure that out?
No, because, yes, you can go on Ellis County CAD and you can look it up. But say those people's moved, there's
What's the
a lot of the places, I think the mayor said at one of the meetings, there's 15 different owners to that property. Who do you send the letter to?
All
Yeah,
15.
Yeah,
Would it not make
some in
sense
trust.
for us to try to get a database of that? If we have 800 houses, to try to get a database of just
Well,
what is
Those
going
are the
on
ones
there?
that we just need to mow and
There
put a
is-
lien on it.
There is what's called, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, I think it's called AccuRent.
Yep, squatters.
No, it's a program where you can, it's called AccuRent. Somebody, usually a police officer or a city administrator, would use this program and you can locate anybody anywhere with this program.
There's several of them out there, Accurate, LexisNexis.
Right.
All of the different groups. I personally pay for one of my own. Boom, I know all your contacts, all your everything. But right now, if we have some that are bad enough, I just call Casey. They pay for the subscription, he puts it in, sends me the paper.
Yeah.
But I think if we have, if the appraisal district has a name and an address, we can just use that. We don't have to hunt down how many errors there might be. But to me, the shortcoming of that is they don't give you phone numbers or email address. It's just a letter.
Right.
But now, I think our ordinance is such that we can, our notification is all right, the way we do that. But the problem is we just don't have any personnel that follows up on things. Now, to Ms. Cross's point, Mr. Markham did send some letters out to that owner. And the last I talked to him, he was gonna see about filing charges with the municipal court, because we didn't, for the reasons Kim was saying, it's not feasible to mow it because it's.
Well, they would first have to go in with a weed eater to find out where all the big junk
Yes.
is.
Yeah,
I mean, we hear them attempt to mow back there sometimes, and it just turns the equipment to dust.
Probably got wood plants growing in some of it, but it's, with bark on them. But yeah, that one probably needs to go to the municipal court. But, on an ongoing basis, we just have to decide who's gonna be in charge of this, dealing with it. Otherwise, they're gonna have them coming into the council meetings. I mean, we could do it that way, I guess, if we send the notices out, and say, and that, I don't know, that might be a solution, but other than that, we're gonna have to probably contract for somebody to do it and just put them in
Find out
charge
who
of it.
owns it, then you go to if you find out who owns the land, then you can go to the tax assessor's office and find out who pays the taxes.
Yeah.
That way you can send a letter.
Yeah, I don't think identifying the owner's that big of a problem. I think it's just, once we identify it and we send them a letter, then what do we do? Who's gonna be in charge of pushing it to the next level? And that's what we're grappling with right now. But I think probably we need to see if we can find somebody that'll do it on a contractual basis and some basis that we can afford. And, I wouldn't think that it would be a big job. That's why I'm thinking a company would be better if we can find one than an individual. And, if we can, then, let's try to do that, and we'll just, and if they have experience in that area, they're gonna look at our ordinance and tell us if it needs to be modified, and so we'll do that and just start the process of enforcement.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it didn't have to be every day coming into the city council to handle this. Give Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You hear from this time to this time. If not, oh well, it's your
Well,
fault.
I don't wanna put anybody on salary, cause most of the time they're not gonna be doing anything.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
think
saying.
we're gonna be happy with that.
Just 3 days a week or whatever. We paying you
I
so
think
much hours for this day, and this day. That's all you get.
I don't think that we need an employee to do it. a
Yeah, I
contract
would
with
agree.
somebody, cause that way they're on their own time. And we'll just be one of their
And not only
customers.
that, it takes
It
it
doesn't-
out of all of our hands, and it takes it, if we can take it out of Kim's hand, it takes it out of other
Right.
hands. It's, yeah, and we don't have to sit knocking on her door trying to figure out
Yeah,
what's going on.
Cause it's gotta be managed. Once you make contact, it's gonna be, they're gonna get resistance and it's gonna take a while. And some of these places are, they're, it's not gonna be cleaned up in a day or two.
I would really appreciate trying to find a third party.
But
at this point, 'cause
I think that's what we should do.
Somebody who will actually take care of the issues.
Right, and they're under our supervision, but they're not, it takes all the personality out of it.
Correct.
Which is what we've needed to do for a long time.
Yeah, none of us on the city council want our homes vandalized in retaliation.
Well, I think I mean, if it comes to it, I certainly don't have a problem with someone addressing the council so that we can tell them, you know, what we expect of them and, you know, work out a plan to remedy. But,
We have to be able to get somebody who's gonna actually take care of the issues. though.
I think so.
Right? That's the biggest thing, so it keeps on getting swept under the rug and now, but it can't, or it shouldn't.
I think it's time to do that. So why don't we, try to do some homework this month and see if we can find some agencies that do this service and
I would agree.
see what we can work out with them. Okay, any further discussion? All right, well then let's adjourn into executive session.
Okay.
We're adjourned.
Okay.
We're going to executive session.